A man stands in his living room, confused, frustrated, holding his phone after yet another argument that spiraled out of control. He's asking himself the same question he's asked 100 times before. What just happened? We were fine 5 minutes ago. Brother, if you've ever felt this way, you're not alone. And what I'm about to share with you today might just change everything you thought you knew about understanding women. But here's the twist. This isn't about manipulation. This isn't about some toxic alpha male nonsense. This is about ancient wisdom that the Stoics knew 2,000 years ago. Wisdom that can transform your relationships from battlegrounds into partnerships. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you'll understand dynamics that 90% of men completely miss. What's up, everyone? Before we dive deep, let me make something crystal clear. When we talk about weaknesses, we're not talking about women being inferior or less than men. Absolutely not. We're talking about psychological patterns, emotional tendencies, and social conditioning that create vulnerabilities, just like men have their own weaknesses. The Stoics, philosophers like Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca, they understood human nature at a profound level. They taught that wisdom comes from understanding reality as it is, not as we wish it to be. And part of that reality is understanding the psychological and emotional patterns in the people we love. Today, we're going to explore 9 patterns that, when you understand them through the lens of Stoic philosophy, will give you a massive advantage in your relationships. Not to exploit, but to protect, to lead, and to build something real. These aren't pickup artist tricks. This is about becoming a man of wisdom and strength, a man who understands human nature and uses that understanding to create deeper connections. So let's get into it.
Here's something the Stoics understood deeply. Humans crave certainty, but women, due to both biology and social conditioning, often crave emotional security even more intensely than men. Let me paint you a picture. Sarah and James have been dating for 6 months. Everything seems perfect. But Sarah keeps asking questions. Where is this going? What are we? Do you see a future with me? James gets frustrated. He thinks, we're happy now. Why does she need to label everything? But here's what Marcus Aurelius would tell you. Understand the nature of things. Women are biologically wired differently. For thousands of years, a woman's survival and the survival of her children depended on having a stable, committed partner. That programming doesn't just disappear because we live in modern times. The vulnerability? When a woman doesn't feel emotionally secure, she becomes anxious, tests more, and can even sabotage a good relationship because uncertainty is more painful than being alone. The Stoic response? Don't see her need for security as weakness. See it as an opportunity to be a rock. Be clear about your intentions. Be consistent in your words and actions. The Stoics taught that our word is our bond. When you say something, mean it. When you commit, follow through. A woman who feels secure with you will be your greatest ally. A woman who feels insecure will be your greatest challenge. Weakness 2, the power of validation. Let me tell you about something that happened to a friend of mine. His girlfriend spent 2 hours getting ready for a date night. 2 full hours. When she came down the stairs, he just said, "Ready to go?" The entire evening, something was off. She was distant, cold. He had no idea why. Brothers, here's a truth the Stoics would want you to understand. Everyone seeks validation, but women, due to social conditioning and constant comparison, often need it more frequently and more explicitly than men. Epictetus said, "First learn the meaning of what you say, and then speak." Translation? Understand what your woman needs to hear. The vulnerability is this. Women often measure their worth through external validation. Social media has made this worse. but it's always been there. When you don't validate her, she might seek it elsewhere. Not necessarily physically, but emotionally. She might post more on Instagram, fish for compliments from other men, or withdraw from you. The Stoic approach? Be generous with genuine compliments. Notice when she makes an effort. Acknowledge her value. But here's the key. Do it authentically. The Stoics despised false flattery. If she looks beautiful, tell her. If she did something thoughtful, acknowledge it. This isn't about feeding an ego. It's about recognizing effort and intention. And when you become the primary source of validation she needs, you become irreplaceable in her eyes. Weakness 3. Emotional reasoning over logic. This one is huge, and if you don't understand it, you'll lose arguments you should win and damage relationships you should keep. Scenario: you tell your girlfriend you're going out with the boys on Saturday. She gets upset. You explain logically, I haven't seen them in weeks. We planned this. I spend most of my time with you. Perfect logic, right? But she's still upset. Why? Because you're speaking logic to emotion. The Stoics, especially Marcus Aurelius, understood that humans are emotional beings who occasionally think. Women, generally speaking, lead with emotion first, then rationalize. Men tend to do the opposite. The vulnerability? When emotion takes over, logic becomes irrelevant. You could have the best argument in the world, but if she feels dismissed, hurt, or undervalued, you've already lost. Here's what Seneca taught. Anger is an acid that can do more harm to the vessel in which it is stored than to anything on which it is poured. When you get frustrated because she's not being logical, you're missing the point. The Stoic man doesn't fight emotion with logic. He acknowledges the emotion first. I understand you're feeling left out. I hear you. Then, after the emotion is validated, you can introduce reason. Try this next time. Before you explain why she's wrong, ask, how are you feeling about this? Listen to understand, not to respond. The Stoics were masters of listening. They knew that understanding precedes wisdom. When you validate her feelings first, she becomes open to your logic. Fight her emotions, and you'll fight forever. Weakness 4. The comparison trap. Walk into any coffee shop and watch. Women scrolling through Instagram, comparing their lives to highlight reels. This isn't new, but technology has made it brutal. Your girlfriend sees her friend getting engaged, another posting about a luxury vacation, another with a bigger house, better car, seemingly perfect relationship. And suddenly, what you provide isn't enough anymore. The Stoics would call this the trap of external validation. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "How much time he gains who does not look to see what his neighbor says or does or thinks." But here's the vulnerability in relationships. Women are socially conditioned to compare more intensely than men. Their worth has historically been tied to who they're with, what they have, and how they appear to others. When your woman starts comparing, she becomes dissatisfied, not because you've changed, but because her reference point has shifted. The Stoic approach? First, understand this isn't about you. It's about her own internal battle with self-worth. Second, become her reference point. Remind her of your journey together. Celebrate your wins, even small ones. But most importantly, help her develop what the Stoics called internal locus of control. Encourage her to measure success by her own standards, not others. A woman who is secure in herself and in her relationship is a woman who doesn't need to compare. Be the steady, unchanging force in a world of constant comparison. Weakness 5. The desire to fix. This one destroys more relationships than most men realize. You meet a woman. She's attracted to your edge, your independence, your masculine energy. But 6 months in, she starts trying to change you. Why don't you dress differently? You should be more ambitious.
Can you be more romantic like in the movies? What happened? Did she suddenly stop loving who you are? No. Here's what the Stoics would help you understand. Many women have a subconscious desire to improve or fix their partner. It comes from a caretaking instinct, from social conditioning that says a woman's value is in her ability to nurture and improve. The vulnerability? This instinct, while often well-meaning, can make a woman unable to accept you as you are. She starts focusing on your flaws instead of your strengths. And when you resist her changes, she feels rejected, like you don't value her input. Epictetus said, "Don't explain your philosophy, embody it." Translation for relationships? Don't try to explain why she should accept you as you are. Show her through your consistency and strength that you're a complete person. A strong woman will respect this. An insecure one will resist. Remember what Marcus Aurelius taught. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Weakness 6. Overthinking and anxiety. You send a text. We need to talk. Within 30 seconds, she's convinced you're breaking up with her, seeing someone else, or that she did something terribly wrong. You just wanted to talk about where to have dinner. This is the overthinking trap, and it's incredibly common. Women, generally speaking, have more active default mode networks in their brains, the part responsible for rumination and internal dialogue. The vulnerability? Overthinking creates problems that don't exist. It turns small issues into relationship-ending catastrophes in her mind. And this anxiety, when unchecked, can sabotage even the strongest relationships. The Stoics were masters of controlling the controllable. Seneca wrote, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." Your role as a Stoic man, be clear in your communication. Don't leave things ambiguous. When you say, "We need to talk," add context immediately. Don't make her wait. Don't play games. But also, help her develop what the Stoics called negative visualization. Help her see that most of what she worries about never happens. Remember last month when you thought I was upset? I wasn't. Remember when you thought I didn't care? I did. Pattern recognition helps reduce anxiety. When she sees that her worst fears rarely materialize, she'll overthink less. Be the calm in her storm of thoughts. Weakness 7. Susceptibility to social proof. Here's a hard truth. Women are generally more influenced by what others think than men are. Not because they're weak, but because they're socially intelligent. They've had to be for survival. Your girlfriend's friends don't like you.
Now, I know what some of you are thinking. This sounds like you're telling me to walk on eggshells around women. No, absolutely not. The Stoics weren't about being soft or accommodating. They were about being wise and strategic. They were about understanding reality so deeply that you can navigate it with strength and grace. The problem most men face is ignorance. They don't understand these patterns, so they react with frustration, anger, or withdrawal. They fight against female nature instead of working with it. And then they wonder why their relationships keep failing. Or worse, they go to the opposite extreme. They become manipulative, treating these insights as weapons to control and exploit. Both approaches are failures of character. Here's the truth that changed my perspective forever. Understanding these vulnerabilities isn't about gaining power over women. It's about becoming the kind of man who can lead, protect, and elevate a relationship. Think about it. When you understand that your woman needs emotional security and you provide it consistently, you're not being weak, you're being strong. When you validate her feelings before introducing logic, you're not being manipulated, you're being emotionally intelligent. The Stoics taught that wisdom is the highest virtue, and wisdom means seeing clearly, understanding deeply, and acting justly. Every single one of these weaknesses is also an opportunity to be the man who understands her when others don't, the man who makes her feel safe when the world feels chaotic, the man who sees her not as an adversary to defeat, but as a partner to elevate. This is what separates boys from men. Boys react, men respond with wisdom. So, where does this leave us? The ancient Stoics faced the same human nature we face today. Marcus Aurelius was dealing with power, love, loss, and relationships 2,000 years ago. Human psychology hasn't changed, only the technology around it has. What they discovered was this: understanding human nature isn't about judgment or exploitation. It's about wisdom. It's about becoming the kind of person who can navigate complexity with integrity. When you understand these 9 patterns, you stop being confused, you stop being frustrated, you start seeing relationship dynamics clearly. And with clarity comes power. Not power over others, but power over yourself. You become the man who doesn't get rattled when she's emotional, the man who doesn't feel threatened when she needs validation, the man who can provide security without losing himself. That's the Stoic ideal: strength through understanding, leadership through wisdom, love through consciousness. Before you go, I need you to do something. Think about your current or past relationships. Which of these 9 patterns have you seen play out? Which ones did you handle well, and which ones destroyed your connection? Drop a comment below with the number of the weakness you found most insightful. Just the number. And if you want, share one lesson you learned from your own experience. Also, if this video gave you a new perspective, share it with one man who needs to hear this. Not to bash women, but to understand them better. To become better partners, better leaders, better men. And here's my question for you, the one I want you to really think about. If you could master just one of these 9 patterns in your next relationship, which would transform your love life the most, and why? Comment below. Let's build a community of men who lead with wisdom, not ego. Subscribe if you want more content on Stoic philosophy, relationships, and masculine development. Until next time, stay strong, stay wise, and remember what Marcus Aurelius taught us: the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. See you in the next one.